love him, but
And good evening. We're here. I didn't realize it was that time. We're glad to have those of you that are watching at home. We are the Murfreesboro City School Board, and we are in the process of interviewing this week for a new director of schools that will start off sometime in April. Let me introduce to you our candidate, Dr. Tammy Garrett, who is now principal at Mitchell Nielsen School. Tammy has been in our system for some time, and let me now introduce to you our board members, Jimmy Richardson, Roseanne Barton, Wes Ballard, I'm Butch Campbell, David Settles, Amanda Moore, and Becky Goff. And again, we're glad to have those of you with us that are watching at home. All right. We've read your resume. We watched you this afternoon on TV, okay? Is there anything that you need to tell us? Well, wait a minute, let me go back. Tell us something about you that we might not know from the resume and this afternoon's Zoom meeting.
One of the things that you may not know that's not going to be on paper is my passion for education, my passion to inspire others, and my heart. One of the things that you may be wondering would be, hey, why didn't you apply the first time? And I do want you to know that if I was doing what Tammy Garrett wanted to do, I would be in my mountain of comfort, which is out of school, which is principal out of school. But many times I tell my EAs and the bus drivers and kids in general, hey, get out of the comfort zone and grow. And that's what I wanted to do. And my heart, someone kept putting on my heart, I believe, a higher power, because bus drivers started stopping by, and janitors that I hadn't seen in a while started stopping by, and teachers started calling, and principals started calling. And I said, okay, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to change this. The other thing is we had some deaths of people who have fought for justice and equity in our country. Ruth Bader Ginsburg and John Lewis, and those people that fight for equity every day. And that said, I said to myself, Tammy Garrett, step up. Make a difference in this community and do what educators and kids in this community need you to do. And that's why I put in the second time, and that's why I'm here tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. What will you do, Tammy, if you become director of schools, to create an atmosphere in the schools that would lead to educational excellence among students?
The most important thing that you do as a principal, as a director of schools, as human resource, whatever, is who you hire and put in front of those kids. If you look at research, the teacher in front of those kids makes a difference. If you don't put great quality educators in there, kids can lose up to 2 years. If a kid has two poor teachers, two ineffective teachers in a row, their chances of graduating high school and reading is very slim. That's why it's so important. Every time I go in a room, no matter the day, I think, what I want Lauren and Lane, those are my kids, what I want them in that classroom. If the answer is no, I have to help that person improve because I believe in helping people improve. If not, then we have to find something else for them to do. It's that important. If they're not good enough for Lauren and Lane, they're not good enough for anyone's kid in Murfreesboro City. The number one thing that I believe in is culture. Life is short. You have to love your job. I have people in my building. I want you smiling when you come to work. I want you to know that you are valued, that the work that you do is important. We're in this together. We can't do it alone. I can't run a school system alone. I'm surrounded by amazing educators every day. I've had the privilege of being a principal at 2 schools in Murfreesboro. I've had the privilege of being a teacher in Murfreesboro City. The history of Murfreesboro City schools is amazing. I can remember days back. Even me, when I graduated high school, you couldn't even hardly get an interview. I want those days for Murfreesboro City Schools. We lost some good educators to companies like Instruction Partners, to other school systems, some educators that we could not afford to lose. We've got to make sure that we get our culture with the bus drivers. Someone asked me recently, why do the bus drivers support you so much? I said 2 things. I go out and have conversations, I establish relationships, and I make the kids behave on the bus. Those people are important. Everybody has value in our system. Everybody has the ability to impact children from the first time they step on the bus, or when they're in the car rider line, or when the teachers are standing at the door waiting on that light to come through the door. It's important. Culture is important. We have to listen to our educators. We have to trust that they know what to do, and we have to let them do it. And we have to give them the resources and curriculum that they need to be successful.
What would you consider to be, I'm going to say 3, major strengths that you have that you could bring to the directorship of Murfreesboro City Schools?
The ability to establish working relationships and build a culture that everyone is proud of, and people want to come to work, and kids want to come to learn. They don't have to learn, that they can't wait to get there in the morning to want to learn. That's number 1, a culture. Number 2 is I know instruction. I am passionate about instruction. I love to teach. I love to interact. I love to share specific strategies and help teachers build content. I love to have instructional dialogue. People get tired of me saying, hey, did you read this new book? Did you see this new strategy? I love instruction. I'm a teacher at heart. If given any opportunity, I love to teach. Instruction is number 2. Number 3, let me see. Inspiring others. One of the, through this process, if this job is not meant for me and it's not part of my path, this has been one of the most rewarding processes that I ever have been a part of. And I hope to not get emotional telling you this. Most of the times you do not know until you are deceased the impact that you can make on others, the impact that your words have that come out of your mouth when you check on people, when you try to pour into people. You don't get to experience that. Over the last few months, I have got to experience that from teachers, from EAs, from bus drivers, from kids that I have had. Today, I had an 8th grade kid write me a letter. This whole process I have been overwhelmed by kindness. I teach my kids every day, in every school I've been at, work hard and be kind. The kindness has been shown to me. Tonight, my biggest concern was I don't want to let these people down. They need me to take them to the next level. And that I try to inspire others every day. And I promise you, these people are probably watching tonight. I was inspired all of my life by teachers, by coaches who invested in me. I owe it to kids to pay that back. I guarantee you 2 of my coaches, basketball and softball, are online watching me today, that they have sent me things. They impacted my life. They are the reason I was the first kid in my family to go to college. They are the reason that I graduated high school. Coaches who invested in me, that said, we are going to break the chain of poverty, and we're going to put all of our energy into making sure that you're successful. And so I will pay back and inspire kids and inspire adults and pour into humans because that's what I am supposed to do. That's what I'm called to do.
Ms. Barton?
Well, all right. My section is about change and the ability to generate it. And I want you to think about a significant change that you've initiated in your current role, and I don't care if it's Mitchell Nelson or Hobgood, but in our system. And tell us what evidence you have to show that it was a positive change, and how did you build support for that change? And I forgot to take off my mask. Sorry.
One of the big things, I was at Hopgood for 7 years. Then I went to Mitchell Nelson. They had some struggles. One of the big struggles they had was school climate and discipline and behavior. I feel that is a strength that I have. I believe that you set expectations. You explicitly use curriculum to teach kids how to self-regulate, self-reflect. You work on social emotional learning. You wrap kids in services, and you help parents, because a lot of times the parents need help. So when I went in, there are lots of numbers. One of the ones that hurt my heart the most was, would you want your kid going to the school? 82% of the teachers said no. That broke my heart. Now, that is zilch. People are happy to be there. Our discipline went from in the teens discipline referrals to 1.7% in 1 year. Teachers feel supported in discipline. One of the, for the district for Murfreesboro City Schools, when you look at how many teachers feel that their principal supports them with discipline, 16% of our teachers in this district either disagree or strongly disagree. And to me, that's not acceptable. When I'm in that building, I need the teachers to know they're supported. If we need to call parents and have parents come in there, we will. I love kids dearly, but I do expect them to behave. And that's the biggest impact that I had on Mitchell Nelson School, was the fact that teachers feel supported. Kids are safe. That was the other thing that I'd heard a lot of. I think parents deserve to be able to send their child to school and know that they are safe. That's what I wanted when my kids were little. That's what I want for every parent. You should be able to send your kid to school, know that they'll be safe, know that they won't be bullied, and that they will be able to learn and grow. And those are the biggest numbers. Our school climate has increased significantly, and I encourage you to go on. They're published, their public record, and you can go on to the Tennessee Department of Education and pull up the school climate surveys from when before I came to now. They took that, and teachers take that every spring.
Okay, great. All right, educational research and initiatives that we all see. I said last night, you know as well as I do, things change all the time. Something happens and people jump on that bandwagon. And I think it's real important, and that's why I'm asking this question, that you're able to maintain a balance of actually keeping what works in your school. Like, you don't have to throw it out because it's old, and still initiating new things or new procedures. How do you balance that you to make sure that you get the right blend?
Okay. Always reading. I love to read research. I love to learn new things. But we have to make sure that what we do well. We can't put too much on teachers, and we gotta think about and look at research. What works? what are the most important things that impact student learning first? And the second, what builds a rich, positive school culture? Those are so important. So when I'm looking at research and we are deciding what are we doing, we're going to look at those two things. How does it affect our culture? How does it affect student learning? I really think before we do a lot of different things and throw things out, we've got to look at data. All your major decisions should be rooted in your story about what you think is important and data, those decisions. So let's look at data. Just because they're old doesn't mean they don't work. And I think one of the things that we've, as educators in general, as an education facility or an institution, sometimes we're getting rid of teachers who have 28 and 29 and forcing them out when they still know what they're doing. They have value. We cannot let a teacher work 28 and 27 years and invest their whole life and treat them poorly when they're 28 or 29 years in. Maybe I'm saying that because I'm getting close. Be kind to us old folks. But they have value, they know old school teaching's okay. I want to do some new things, believe me. But I do think, one time I used to work as coordinator of teaching and learning for Murfreesboro City Schools. And I asked a teacher one time. The principal said, "I can't believe you asked that." And I said, "I needed to know to be able to help this teacher. Are you burnt out? Or did you not have the skills?" I mean, it's important of how I'm going to help you improve. Do I need to come in and model some skills and us do some side by side? Or are you just burnt out and you need new motivation and new inspiration to get you there? Because I think you would tackle that differently. But I do think one of the big things, curriculum. Teachers deserve a curriculum that is important, and they want it to be modified as we go, and they need to have training on it. And that's what we're lacking right now. I appreciate the fact that we have EL, but we have to step back and call the company and find money in that budget and say, hey, we need people from the company to come in and show us how to utilize every aspect of this curriculum. And we owe it to teachers to do that. EL has been proven effective. If you look at systems around the state, around the country, it is great. There are some great things, but we got to know how to use it. So we got to train our teachers on how to use it. And that's what I hear from them, and we have to listen. Teachers know what they're doing. We got to listen to them.
Okay, I am moving on to the next section. This is about effective listening skills, decision-making to some extent. Give us an example of a time that you've changed your mind and taken a different course of action as a result of listening to others. And did you ask for that input, or was it offered in another way?
Okay. The thing that comes to my mind, and this person is probably going to die laughing if she's watching, but when I was a teacher at Hopgood, Dr. Carissa Dodson came to me and she said, guess what? You're going to use this book from now on. And I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I don't want to use that. Back then we called it the basal. Now it's EL and those. But I was like, no, I do not. That's not me. I don't, I'm creative. I can add to. I was really committed at the time to balanced literacy. And then I went to central office as coordinator of teaching and learning. And I realized not everybody taught like I taught. That's the biggest thing you realize when you come out of the classroom is everybody's not doing the same thing. Everybody doesn't have the content knowledge. Everybody, you do not have the strategies sometimes. Now I realize, and I've changed on this, when I have seen what our scores have done. We've got 36% proficient in reading in this district. That we have to overcome that. And we have potential because we've got 56% of kids in our district who are proficient in math. So they have potential. So what does that say? That says that we had a problem. I think we swung a little too far, and I'm convinced, changed my mind, that and looked at research, EL is important. And one time I would not say that, but it is so important, but we got to train people on how to use it. That doesn't mean, I don't want you to think that I'm saying you always have to use a book, because you don't. Teachers have the ability to design their lessons if they have the content knowledge and continue to master those standards. There are teachers out there that we have in this district that are better teachers than the people probably who wrote this curriculum. But every teacher cannot write curriculum. I'm really a better delivery. I'm better at instruction. I think there's a difference. You have curriculum, you have instruction. My strength is instruction. I can't write curriculum, and definitely can't write curriculum and have a life. Teachers deserve to have a life. Teachers deserve, one of the things that I've learned is balance. And I almost wish that I could go back to some of the people I had when I was a beginning administrator and say, I'm sorry. Because when the younger Tammy Garrett was gung-ho, the older Tammy Garrett has learned how to balance. And it makes all the difference in the world. You got to have balance. And balance starts with the leader. You cannot be too intense. Yes, you want to change the world, but we are dealing with human beings. We are dealing with parents who are trying to get kids to school. This morning, we can't, I got off track. I'm so sorry. Where was I going? Curriculum. They've got to have a balanced life. So, and not everybody can write it, but you know what the curriculum does? It creates content knowledge. If you don't have the content knowledge, you can't teach it. So once you study that book and you learn how to teach strategies, it becomes your own. But we got to have something, because these elementary school teachers, to do a great lesson in science and social studies and math and reading and figure out how I'm going to homeschool my kid or my grandkid, or, it's hard. So they deserve a curriculum, and they need a curriculum. And sorry, I got off on a tangent there.
Well, we'll let you get off your soapbox, and I'll read the next question. I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
I'm kidding. All right. In your administration, we are talking about avenues that are open for people to come to you to listen to their concerns, okay? Not just your employees, your students, parents, community members. And so how do you plan to have time available for all involved? And while listening to your constituents is so important, I totally agree, are you strong enough to make a difficult decision that goes against what you've heard from them? And then how do you deal with that?
Okay, that's a two-part question.
Yeah, it is. And I'll say the second part again.
Okay,
if you
all
want me
right.
to.
Can you repeat the first part?
Yeah. So basically, how do you have avenues open to listen to concerns?
Gotcha. Okay.
How do you plan to have time available for all those groups?
Perfect. One of the things I would like to implement is a superintendent parent advisory council, also a superintendent student cabinet. Before, we've had teacher advisory council. I think that we have to listen and implement the strategies. Now, there are certain things that we have to do, but the state regulates it, or federal government regulates it, or those kinds of things, that doesn't mean that we can't advocate and change those and be passionate if it's something that we feel is in the best interest of kids and teachers. And I think if people know that you will fight for them, and do those kinds of things, that they appreciate. They appreciate honesty. They appreciate trust. People want those kinds of things. They appreciate hope. Though the other thing that I want to do, your calendar reflects what you think is important. I want to be in school buildings more than the principal's office. I want to be in the building. I want to see if I can offer you help. We have to help principals and teachers, and I want to be in those buildings. What does it do? Gives you the opportunity. Visibility is extremely important. My dissertation was on administrative visibility. If you are in those classrooms, it helps you with discipline. Kids know that you're watching. You get to know those kids on a different level, so the kids don't want to disappoint you. Administrative visibility is critical, from the principal to the central office to the director of schools. It keeps you focused. It keeps you remembering what is your purpose for being here. Those kids sitting in that seat. That's the purpose. And when I was at central office as coordinator of teaching and learning, sometimes, and the people are still here, I'd have to go in their rooms and just say, hey, I need to see some good instruction today. It's getting tough. I need to see kids. I need to refocus. I need to remember why I'm here. But that gives you the ability to hear students, to hear teachers, and be there. But can I make tough decisions? Absolutely. But just like teachers, just like students, when you are there for your people, when you have their back, when you ask, are you okay? Is your dad okay? When you do check-ins and people know that you are pouring love into your leadership role, they will do anything that you need them to do. And I promise you that when things get tough, if you have never had an opportunity to work in a school, they are some of the most amazing human beings that you will ever encounter. If you're sick, they bring you casseroles you won't have to cook for 3 weeks, I promise you. Amazing human beings. The fact that I was called to do this has been just touched my life more than anything in the world. Educators are amazing people, and they will bend over backwards to make sure kids get what they need and their dreams come true. And we have some of the best in the state here. I think 2 of the faculties I've had, when things got tough, they roll up their sleeves. I roll up my sleeve. I'm not going to lead from in front and tell you how to do it. I'm going to pull up beside you, and we're going to get through it together. And those are the times that when I have to make tough decisions, that it's easier, because they know we're in it together. It's not I, but it's we.
Thank you.
Ms. Moore?
Hi, Dr. Garrett. The questions I have are about support for schools, broader than just within this group of people here. So can you tell us what you have done to create excitement and to generate support for public schools?
Generate support for public schools. One of the things that I do, I believe in networking. I believe in the whole child. I believe that we as a community have to have pride in our school. Our future earnings depend on how successful we are as a school system. When people look at our community, they look at our scores. When businesses decide where they are landing, they look at our scores. They need our schools to be the best they can be. It helps our community. If we want community buy-in, we have to make sure that we are networking with them. We have to work with the city council. We both have a lot at stake here. If we work with the city council and the community, I think that we establish linkages. We make sure that both parties are at the table when decisions are made that affect our community. I think that we send our notes to them. No surprises. No surprises. I think we form coalitions. I think that we model teamwork. I think we respect boundaries. And I think we have a joint pride in our students. The community needs us to be successful, and we owe it to them. The taxpayers, I'm a taxpayer, I live in Murfreesboro, I want my money used wisely. And I think we have to be good stewards of that, and we have to make sure their investment in us and in our kids pays off.
Thank you. Now, could you give us an example of how you've worked with a group outside of the school system to generate support for schools? And so an example might be with businesses or with local government, community groups, or even the media.
Okay. One of the organizations I serve on their board would be the Child Advocacy Center, Rutherford County CAC. They are an organization that is absolutely remarkable. Dr. Linda Gilbert introduced me. She knows my passion for kids who have been abused, my passion for kids who have had trauma, who need mental health services. And so she said, I think you may enjoy this. And it has changed my life. It is my mission to help kids who have experienced trauma. Through that organization, I'm able to network through with the judicial system, with the chief of police with Murfreesboro Police Department, with the Rutherford County DA in his office, with the Department of Children's Services. So when I have a child in my building, when I have a child that another principal calls me about, because they know I'm passionate about this, and says, hey, what would you do? What do you think? I can call leaders of those organizations that I network with and say, hey, can you help us out? This kid needs help. Sometimes they even had, one time I had a police officer call me from Murfreesboro Medical Center that wasn't my kid and said, hey, what do I do with this kid? He's having, some mental health problems. Give me some advice. Those are the things that I think helps a school system, because many times we struggle with what do I do? I know this kid needs help. So it's critical that we form partnerships and we network with these agencies so we can get the families and the kids the help that they need. On Thanksgiving week, the Monday of Thanksgiving, we partnered with Amazon and Feed the Children, and we gave 300 food boxes out for families of Mitchell Nielsen and families across the district because we had extra, and hygiene boxes and toys and box of food, and they had things, makeup and things the kids could give their parents presents. So it was remarkable to see that come together, and they called me 2 weeks ahead and said, hey, would you want to do this? I was like, absolutely. And what I found out was because of the pandemic, they have a warehouse full of stuff and nowhere for it to go. And so I talked to them about working with other principals and our social workers to set up partnerships where we can get those kinds of things to the hands of the people who need them.
Thank you.
Ms. Goff?
Okay. My questions will be focused on school board relations and policy. It is very important that the board and the director make an effort to understand and respect each other's roles so that we can avoid unnecessary conflicts that will come up from time to time. Can you share your style of working through conflict?
Well, I think we need to have a collaborative relationship rather than a combative relationship. Again, with the relationship that I have with this board, if appointed to this position, will be the cornerstone of my career. stability of this district depends on it, so it's very important. When I deal with conflict, I want to listen. I'm a calm leader. Most people say through this pandemic and thing, they're like, you don't act like this bothers you. I find calm leaders perform better, and calm leaders put people at ease. I think it's all about how you talk to people. Again, as with we don't want to give the city council any surprises. The school system, we should not give you any surprises. We should do our homework. We should be prepared for meetings. We should communicate with you. I would send you a weekly email telling you things that are going on, how I've spent my time, what schools I've visited, things that are going on to keep the communication there. I think one of the things that we could do to establish a relationship right off the bat is for us, and I have a 100-day transition plan for you, and within that first 30 days, I would love to have a board retreat so we could establish a communication plan as well as a strategic plan about how we can work together to make sure that we have the stability and the vision and the plan that we need to make this school system successful.
Okay. Developing and adopting policy is the board's major responsibility. Have you had any experience writing policy?
Absolutely. Back in the day, Carissa, Karen, and I wrote all of the instructional policies. So Linda had us working on that. So we have had quite a bit of experience working, especially the instructional policies.
Okay. And you may have answered it earlier, but I wanted to ask you, what is your plan to communicate with the board? You kind of said weekly.
Weekly, I think in the beginning, and I have it, I don't know if you want me to give it now, or would you?
Yeah, go ahead. That'll be fine.
Okay.
Oh, no, I mean the packet. We can get it
Okay.
later. I thought you
All
were
right.
asking about it.
Weekly emails, I think it would be critical to have the role of board chair because when I've studied and read, that is a critical relationship to meet individually with each of you. Also, to make sure that you are informed of what's going on in our schools so you see those things and we're at events together. And I just want to make sure that I lead and manage and that I make sure that policies are enforced. And I am always transparent. I am not going to bring you numbers and act like they're not what they are. I always say numbers don't lie, but we can kind of, no, if it's not good, I'm going to accept it, be accountable for it, because that's what we teach children. You got to be accountable for whatever it is. So I want trust and transparency and being honest with you and, working hard work, and make sure I do my homework, make sure the staff does the homework as well. One of the critical roles in that, I think, one of the things that we have lacked in the school district is an organizational chart. We have not had an organizational chart. We have, I think that's critical. One of the big elements, the principals, 25%, they account for 25% of whether a kid learns. So that will be a huge focus of mine when we look at that. I need to support them. I need to coach them. Principals at low-income schools have a higher turnover rate. So that's critical to have that organizational chart support those principals. It's crucial to have them in the right spot. But I do think that I will tell you this, I am not a micromanager. That is not my style. I'm not that person. I believe in hiring the very best people and let them do their job. Am I going to be there to support them? Absolutely. I have an ability to form some of the best teams. The most important job, hiring the right people to do that job. The people who are experts in their field, who have the ability to inspire people, then coach them, provide them opportunities for growth, and let them do their thing. I inspire people. I love to do that. But I am not a micromanager.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. We come back to Amanda, don't we?
These questions focus on diversity and equity. What evidence can you cite to demonstrate you have the ability to work effectively with diverse student populations and multicultural groups?
Hopgood scores have consistently been at a level 5. Most of that comes from those effective teachers. Number 1, they know how to teach, let them do their thing. Several times we won at Hopgood, like Main Street School of the Year. I can't remember the terminology, I apologize. I think that says a lot. It was the highest several years percent of free and reduced lunch students. It speaks for itself. I have the passion. When Linda Gilbert came to me and said, will you go to Mitchell Nielsen? They need you. Yes. Mitchell Nielsen, if you look right now at some of their case data, because of the pandemic, some kids had like 9% proficient in a class. Some of those teachers now, that one particular teacher has 42.9% proficient. One went from 17 to 54.7, I think. Incredible growth. Mitchell Nielsen has 13 hotels in their zone. The next in comparison has 3 hotels in their zone. They have a significant amount of homeless children. For teachers, the homeless population can be a lot of work because a lot of times they lack clothes, they lack supplies. So as a school, you have to get the resources to get those things in place. You pour lots and lots of resources, then the person or the family moves on and another one comes and the cycle starts over. So the fact that they have that population, that they can do the work that they're doing in successful, 1.7% of their students had office discipline referrals last year, was incredible work by those teachers. That's a lot of teaching the social emotional skills, a lot of teaching of self-reflection and self-regulation. Those are the things that work. Because those are the success stories that we have. I really think that we have to find a way at those schools to keep those talented educators and talented principals. We've had a lot of turnover at some schools that are high-risk schools. Those kids and those teachers deserve some stability. And I really think that I have the experience that this district needs to get these teachers through this pandemic. We lost our director of schools. We went through a pandemic. These teachers need someone at this leadership position who will support them, who is knowledgeable, who will make sure that they have the resources and the curriculum they need to be successful in doing the number one job, the most important job in the world, educating children and creating those little humans that will be creative thinkers, problem solvers, who will eventually go out and change the world. And I think that I have proven that I can make sure that students who are from have been historically underserved can be successful.
Thank you. And following up on that, how can a school system work toward education equity across racial and economic differences in the system?
One of the things is we have to make sure that our employees look like our population. Give you an example. I had a kindergartner just last week. The principal at the primary was out, and I said, hey, can you, she's a black assistant principal at Mitchell Nilsson. I said, hey, would you run through the primary? Ms. Newell's out, and she said, yes. She came back. She said, I have to tell you what happened. And she said, a little guy in kindergarten looked at me and said, you're black. That speaks to my heart, that he had not seen someone in a leadership position that looked like him. We have to get people at the table. Not only do we need to get them at the table, we need to listen to their voice. One of the things that helps me specifically, we need to look at how we're educating students in these subgroups, students who historically have been underserved. Are we using strategies related to their cultures? Are we immersing ourselves in the culture so we can learn things that how they learn best? One of the biggest aha moments for me is First Baptist on Castle. I love to go hear him. And one day when I was in there, I was like, I get it. They were conversing in church and back with the preacher. Many times we don't do that. And I related it to teachers getting upset when kids call out in the classroom. We have to immerse ourselves in this culture to understand. Some cultures like discourse. As a teacher, are you allowing academic discourse in your class? If you're not, you are penalizing some of these populations and not letting them live their full potential. If the loudest voice in the room is always the teacher, how do we give kids a voice? We got to give kids a voice. We got to learn what they need. I found that Hispanic culture loves art. They are the most artistic group of people. So are we doing lessons that include art for those students? I think those are the things that are going to get us above that hurdle, that these kids will increase the outcomes that these populations have not had. Literacy. We have to teach kids how to read, especially those populations, especially everyone. Literacy is power. In this country, the suppression of literacy is historical. If you look at history, you can see it. We in Murfreesboro City need to become the system that's a model system. This is how you make a difference. This is how you teach reading. And I believe that we have the faculty and the staff and the expertise to do just that.
Thank you.
Mr. Settles?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Garrett, so glad to have you with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
All right. I'll just ask a couple of questions. When and to what group and on what subject was your last speech?
I think it would be with the staff. We've had a lot of those speeches this year. I try to read the staff. I try to know what they need. If I don't know, then somebody usually tells me, hey, I have one particular teacher who will send me a text, hey, we need one of those inspiring speeches. People sometimes need you to understand what they're going through. And teachers need that. and they can rejuvenate and get back there. I've presented also, a different path, I presented at LEAD conference several times. One of the things I present at MTSU a lot is on the rubric, the evaluation rubric for teachers. The other thing, I'm a certified comp trainer, classroom management. I love to talk about classroom management. I love to talk about building relationships in your classroom. I love to talk about reading. I think the elements of reading is huge. So those are things that I enjoy. Administrative visibility and coaching is another huge thing that I enjoy doing a speech on or working on.
That's kind of my next question. What's your favorite presentation subject? Out of all the ones you named, because those were quite a few.
I'm sorry.
I said out of all the ones that you named, because those were quite a few, which I picked. I liked the long list. So which one is your favorite?
What's my favorite?
What's your favorite thing to present on?
Probably the classroom management and making sure that we develop a class that kids love to come to. They're allowed to talk. Cooperative learning strategies. When I do faculty meetings or things, I try to think of something I can share that teachers will take away. So that's probably my favorite thing to do is how do I manage the classroom efficiently where kids love to learn and where they take ownership of their learning.
Okay. And my last question, have you been successful in getting strong parental and community support for a school program or a district? And tell us about one of those successes.
One of the things that comes to my mind is the BEST program at Mitchell-Nielsen. The families, when they come to BEST, that sometimes they are really needing a lot of support. They've had a situation where they've not been able, their child has not been successful in the classroom. And so we are able to wrap them in services. First off, we want to give them case management. It's like a three-prong approach. Get them a case manager, therapist. Sometimes they need to see a psychiatrist, and we can help them with those resources. That's hard when the kid maybe was suspended a lot at another school, maybe they were restrained a lot at another school, and to get those parents to believe in you and what you're doing and to give you a chance to figure out what makes this kid tick. What program do they need? And I have parents that come to me and they usually don't want to go back because the teacher's so good. They've got the resources that they need, the support's in place, that maybe the relationship is broken at their other school and they don't want to go back. But I have to tell them, we have to find a way to transition you back to your community school. I get emails and calls from these parents that they cannot believe the progress that the kids make. Those are the most rewarding situations. When you finally figure out what kind of educational plan works for this kid and we can transition them back, it's very rewarding. And the parent support on that and to have them as part of that team to make that kid successful, I do not believe in putting kids in a box. I believe in every kid is unique with unique potential. And we have to find what works for this kid. Is it some choice? Is it teaching them certain social emotional skills? What is going on? So that is probably the one I would think of.
Thank you. Mr. Ballard?
Need a break? How you doing?
I'm good.
All right, good. So excluding COVID and this extraordinary times we're in right now, think of a problem that was brought to you recently that was maybe just caught you, just blindsided you, a problem that needed to be addressed, and how did you handle it?
Problem. Sorry. I think it would have to be the coming to Mitchell Nilsson. It was, I had to analyze, I had to build trust, I had to get parent support, I had to let the kids know the true me, because at first, you know, we had some behavior problems, and so I had to address that. So it made me grow to try to assess what the problem was, because they have amazing people there. So I had to go in and say, okay, what is the problem, and how can we solve it? And last year, we kept all of our teachers, our classroom teachers. We lost one teacher who went to campus school. Before, they had tremendous turnover. And I think that was an incredible problem for us to solve after 1 year that, as a school, we didn't have anyone leave. So that's critical for building your culture, building your school. You don't have to retrain everyone and use your resources. Everyone's there. They did not want to leave. So I think we did a pretty good job with that problem.
Good, thank you. Then tell us about the most important decision you've made recently, and explain how you involved the people who would have been affected by that decision or would be affected by that decision.
I think the most important decision that I make is who you hire, whether it's a bus driver, whether it's a teacher. You have to, when you make that decision of who goes in front of those kids, most of the time they're there for a year, 180 days. That's the hardest decision that you make as a leader. Who are you going to hire, and what position will you utilize them in? And what's the best, what skills do they have, and where will they best serve your kids at? Definitely the hardest decision, and the most important decision that I make as a school principal.
Very good. Kind of like the decision we're working on right now, huh?
Very important decision. But also, every position is important. Whoever, the cafeteria ladies, the bus drivers, it's so important. The most important decision.
Mr. Richardson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Dr. Garrett.
Hello.
My questions are going to be about experience and long-term goals.
Okay.
So I'd like for you to describe how you've led a school or a school system in creating a vision and then building support for that vision. And I'd like for you to focus on a school-wide scenario, or system-wide scenario, if you could.
Okay. A lady that worked at MTSU, Dia Cirillo, is excellent at leading an organization to develop a vision. At some points, I think that we need to ask for a third party to come and help us develop. What does our mission look like? What does our vision look like? And people who are really talented at developing those. We had her come and help us develop that, and it worked very well. And I think with that, we developed action steps. Once we got our vision down, then we developed action steps. But having a third party come in with your organization definitely helps many times, because one of the things that we as a school system need to work on is our business model. A lot of times businesses are much better at logistics and developing goals, and we can learn a lot from them. So I think I've done that before. It worked well, and we could utilize our resources in that aspect again.
And in what situation did you use that? Was that in a school?
Hobgood.
At Hobgood, okay, I'm sorry. My second question, and thank you. My second question is about how you've used planning and goal setting to improve schools and the school system. But I want to go back to your opening statement. You said you felt called upon to work for change. I'd also like for you to answer how you would change how Dr. Garrett would handle the future versus how our Dr. G, our beloved Dr. G, handled it in the past.
Okay. Take me back to the first question. I'm sorry.
How have you used planning and goal setting to improve schools, and how would you differ moving forward from Dr. Gilbert?
Okay. I believe in setting goals and being determined to meet those. I'm very competitive. As an old athlete, I'm very competitive, whatever it is. Cards, diddlywinks. So I want us to be the very best we can be. In order to do that, you have to plan, you have to have goals. Logistics is a big thing. One of the things that when I have worked in this district and going around and helping other principals, I was the principal team lead. I've took several days to go and observe what's going on. In order to do that, one of the things I noticed is we have to work on the management skills. Management skills requires you to plan, to set goals, and then analyze whether you met those or not. Look at numbers. Look at one of the things that I think you plan for and you set goals is as a team. Sometimes as a team, we make decisions based on averages of the team when maybe we only have one person who's not been productive in that department. And so we have to establish a culture of those, hey, we're going to set these goals, we're going to look at everybody's performance, and we own those. But that's not easy. You have to make sure that you have to establish a culture to do that, so people are not offended, or, you got to have that professional learning community that we believe, and we're going to set these goals, and we're going to look at what everyone did on our team, because we're in this together, and we plan together. And that's how you make change. If you don't look at plans and goals and how you performed, you don't know how you did. So I do think that's very important to look at those. And we do that in the schools that I've been at.
And how would you add to or build upon or remove how Dr. Gilbert led previously, the goal setting and the planning?
She was an incredible human being. I'm definitely not Dr. Gilbert, but I will give it my all and heart. Trying to think. The organizational chart is one thing that I think needs to be different. I think that the previous administration did not believe in the organizational chart. I think that's critical. I believe that we need to look at possibly for the director of schools to really focus on the principals and support them in aspects that they need, and the central office staff, that someone would need to lead those support services. It is critical, in my opinion. Those support services are important. Mm-hmm. They have to feel valued. So I think that is one of the huge differences in my philosophy and one of the changes I'd like to make.
Thank you very much. Going back to our first question, when you talked about having third parties come in to help determine what the goals and action steps would be. Can you tell us how you garnered support from the community and from staff and the board in doing that?
Communicating, connections, networking, finding opportunities. One of the Chamber of Commerce, I serve on their technology board, that they come together, and I learned so much from, and it makes me think, why are we not bringing corporate America, corporate organizations to the table who can teach us a lot of things? As a principal, I don't think that anyone ever has come to look at my, and you may think it's a simple, but it's a really big deal to look at to me or to teachers, to look at the logistics of how the buses come in, to give me feedback, how kids come in the morning, car rider lines, how they come in and how they leave. Those are the business type things that we could really utilize. Budgeting for principals, we don't do a lot of that, but we have to give principals opportunities to work on those kinds of things. And if we need to utilize our networks, then we need to do that. People in the community, scheduling is a huge thing. Like, teachers spend a lot of time on schedule. We get out Post-it notes and stickies and charts, and we're moving them all over. And I'm like, surely, and whoever's technology oriented, this would be a big thing. But surely there's a piece of software somewhere that we could put our constraints that the state has given us and what we value as a school system and come up with a schedule without having teachers spend hours and hours and hours putting the schedule together. So those are the things I think that we can become better at, that I value. It's another difference. I value that management piece. When I have seen principals struggle, it's usually the management piece that sometimes they struggle with, that we as a district have not really developed. Yes, instruction is important, but the human resources side is important, budgeting is important, logistics is huge. Have you thought out, like going to MTSU? That's a huge thing. And I would put together a huge plan, and when I first handed it to them, they were like, what's this? I try to think of every detail and go by it. Where are you sitting? What side of the building are they picking you up? Those logistical part. But I have some resources in corporate world, and I say, okay, look at this for me. But I think that we need people to come over there and give us feedback. If the car rider's backed up, well, let's give these principals feedback on how I could utilize with the police department. Come evaluate this. We've got to develop that business side for our principals. The other part are assistant principals. We have assistant principals that have been assistant principals for a long time. We've got to develop into leaders. We should be training those assistant principals to take over when these people retire. We just had a lot of people retire. We've got a lot of assistant principals. If you want to be an assistant principal forever, I'm okay with that. But if we are not training our assistant principals on management and leadership and instruction, we're not doing a good job. Those should be the ones that we are really training to take over these schools as people retire. And we've got to do that by having some help. We're good with instruction, but we got to step back and say, we got to give these principals time to talk about what they need to talk about and develop their management skills.
Those are very tough questions. Thank you for stringing it together for me.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions pertaining to as your experience as not only a teacher but an administrator, making sure that you understand some of the day-to-day things going on in the classroom and other parts of the building. And one of those questions, Tammy, will be that with schools in our system that range from the high free and reduced lunch to the low free and reduced lunch, how do you plan to institute programs that will be within a reasonable expectation as well as strive for the needs of both? Is there a program that needs to be?
All kids are important. We want every child to have academic excellence. We want to be a system. When people look at our system, they want to be here. They want to move here. We're growing. A couple of the things that I think that we need. Our ELL population is significant. To help ELL across the district, whether they are at Case and Lane or they're at Salem or wherever they are, we have put that position as a district in with something else. Currently, the person who does the ELL from the district office is not a certified ELL person and does other things. We need someone leading our ELL who knows ELL, who's certified to teach English as a second language and to lead those people. That will be helpful across the district. We have to realize that we have differences in our schools and talk about them. To not be able to talk about them is a problem. There are differences, and we can't sweep things under the table. We got to keep it out in the open. We got to say, what are the differences? What do you need? Yes, you have to have consistency across the district. We want a vision, we want a mission, but we got to hire the very best principals, and they know what they need. They know what they're good at. Certain principals are really good at certain schools. Principals are important. We need to listen to them. We need to motivate them because being a principal is a tough job. And sometimes it's a lonely job because you supervise everybody you spend all day with. And so we have to have some time for them to network, have a professional learning community among themselves, and talk about what they need to talk about and help them and support them to do their job. I am committed to the gifted program. I raised 2 gifted kids. That is important to me. My kids kept me on my toes many times. I wanted them to get the very best education and their needs to be met. So every child is unique, and we need to not put kids in a box, but figure out what can we do for these kids. Whether they are a kid at Overall Creek, at Mitchell-Nielsen, at Bradley, wherever they are, if they're in Murfreesboro City, they are important, and we need to utilize our resources and our expertise. We have so many resources. What other system has MTSU and Lipscomb and Vanderbilt and all these places? We can network to provide the exceptional programs for all of our kids. No matter where you go to school, you should have access to high quality instruction. You should have access to early intervention and skill-based intervention. You should have access, no matter where you go to school, to non-academic support. That's how we're going to get all kids successful.
As a teacher and also as an administrator, you are well aware of the need for technology, one-to-one almost, on laptops or whatever. What would be your goals for the district regarding technology?
I definitely think that we need one-to-one computers, because if anything else happens like this again, we need to be prepared. Teachers need access to clear touch panels, all of the great things that they are learning how to use. When I came to Mitchell-Nielsen, they still had those smart boards. I said, you got to have the clear touch panels. They're amazing. The kids love them. I would like for teachers to have clear touch panels. I'd like for us to address the fact that this distance learning has had the hardest impact on historically underserved populations, because it amazes me they don't have access to internet. So we've got to have hotspots. We have to work with our community to set up learning centers where if something happens, they can go there. We have to work with our community to find places, after-school care, and collaborate with them to supplement anything that we can't do, whether it's on our breaks in summer. And there are some great organizations in some major cities that do an outstanding job that we can go visit and see what technology did you have in place in after-school programs and these kind of things to help our kids. But teachers have to have access to technology. They have to have access to training. We have some extraordinary instructional coaches. They bring to teachers all kinds of ideas of how to enhance their learning in the classroom with technology. We got to get them the training. We got to get them the equipment. But kids can teach you how to. They will teach. I'll say, come here and teach me how to do this. They amaze me. Technology is important. It's our future, and kids have to know how to use what is here. And kids have to know what's in the future. One of the huge things that I think that we have to realize as educators and teachers, many times we set up and we talk about what you're going to do when you're 18. Well, when you're 8, that's hard to do. We have to teach kids through technology and all the problem solving and STEAM and hands-on things. You can change the world today. There are kids that are making things that are changing the world today. We have to give them a voice. We can't expect 8-year-olds to think about investing in themselves and making a better version of themselves when they're 18. We got to teach them how to do it now. And technology is a huge piece of that puzzle because that's what motivates kids.
I was going to ask you a question about the experience that you've had in developing or implementing and evaluating instruction, but I think that you have expressed yourself very well on that already. What learning theories, I'll say, have you found most useful in improving student achievement and better preparing students for life? Could you name any one or two theories?
Anything to do with student engagement.
Okay.
Kids have to be engaged, and many times people think compliance is engagement, and it's definitely not. I like discourse in classrooms. I like hands-on learning. Now, there are certain things that you cannot teach in a fun way, and I used to tell my kids when I was in the classroom, hey, we did great activities. They were so fun, but today's going to be boring. Sorry, there's not a fun way. You know, there will be certain things, but those are the things I think that make a difference. Designing those lessons that kids eat out of the palm of your hand, and they're just wanting to learn more. Creating environments where they run home to tell their parent about that lesson. They run up the hall to tell their principal about that lesson. Student engagement is critical for learning to happen.
Mr. Ballard?
Okay, so kind of coming off of Mr. Campbell's question regarding technology, if Dr. Garrett could design or see the future, what would you want education to look like 10 years from now, versus what we've looked at the classroom for 50 years and it hasn't changed? Do you have any vision ahead of what you would like to be pushing for change?
Kids I want school to be about questioning, school to be about discovery, school to be about inquiry. What are we developing? Are we developing hands-on things? I do think that the element of some distance learning will not go away. I think if we don't get on a way to do this, corporate America will take that over, and some of our kids will go that direction. And so I think that element will not go away. Tell me the number. You say 10 years or?
Yeah, just about 10 years because.
problem solvers, critical thinkers, kids who have a voice. Some of the things that I think about in reading. Are we allowing kids to read and then wonder? Some of the best learning they can have when they stop and think, or they pause and wonder about something. And does reading shape you? I want to develop a system in which kids love to read. And when they get a hard text that they love to read so much that they have the stamina to get through it. That's one of the things that we do not do sometimes, is give kids time to read and reading with a purpose. So those are the things that I want. Are you changed by something that you read? And do you write with passion? Those are the kinds of situations that I want kids to have. I want us to really have an environment 10 years from now that public education is strong and that we are building kids who will become problem solvers and thinkers, who will change the world. I want our schools to be full of hope. That is one of the joys of education, the joys of school. It's a beautiful place to be because every day is a new day, and we have hope, and the kids have hope for the future, for a meaningful future. That's what's important.
Okay, great, thank you. And I guess this is the last question, but certainly not an easy one. The reopening of schools. How would you address reopening schools with safe operation, teaching and learning and student wellness, and getting us back to, I guess, something like a traditional school again?
Teachers want to be back in school. They tell me every day, I want all my kids back. The teachers want to be safe. We got to work with the community. I know that Ms. Walker and Mr. Ringstaff are working with the community and medical professionals so we can vaccinate our teachers. We need to work to get that done. Teachers want to be safe if they want it. I'm not saying they have to do it, but if they want it, they should be able to have access to it. So hopefully we can roll that out pretty soon. I think that will give security. I think that we have to make sure that we are really supervising our custodial services to make sure that we have our buildings clean. Perception is a big thing. We want to make sure that those buildings are clean, and that will make parents and students feel more comfortable to come back. I think we rely on our medical professionals. We've done a great job. Our nursing staff has amazed me. They are doing tremendous work. I think we listen to the professionals. We get kids back in school. Now, one of the things I would like to touch on, we have to be very careful in that we are not going to put intense pressure on teachers to make up before August all of the whole year that they've experienced. As professionals, as a board, I think we advocate with the state and federal government to say, let's look at these norms. Nothing is normal anymore. And to think that we can wave a magic wand and put tremendous pressure on educators to make up what we've missed, I think will be a detriment to our profession. I think that we have to look at what is a new normal, because we're not the only ones doing it. The whole world is doing it. But we have to really think about accelerated learning. What does that look like? In my opinion, it's looking at skill deficits, diagnosing what skills this kid is lacking in order to access grade level material. It comes with many lessons as well. But I just want us to really think about how we roll this out, because there's a human side to this. Teachers are important. If you look at surveys recently done by Castle in 2020, the well-being of teachers has decreased. The stress level of teachers has increased. Teachers can move kids. Teachers know what they're doing. They have a heart for it. They know how to take this kid who is not reading to get them to read, to get them to know and be able to access the grade level standards. We just have to be very careful that we support their mental health, their emotional health, and create a culture that they know beyond a shadow of doubt they are supported. We value what they do. We value as a human being, and we know that you are managing a lot right now. You are managing kids, you of your own, you are managing sick parents, you are managing a lot. But we care about you, we care what you're doing, and we know that you make a difference every day. These teachers and nurses have absolutely amazed me this year. And the kindness that they show every day to everyone is remarkable. And I am so glad that 25 years ago, I chose to do this. And when I decided to be an administrator, I decided because at the time, I had people that weren't doing what was right for kids. And I had administrators who did not support me or the kids. So I said, I am going to get my administrator license, and I'm going to make a difference for kids and teachers. And that's what I plan to do. And I promise you guys, I will work hard and I will always be kind, because those are my core values.
Okay. Our board will meet on Tuesday of next week, and as part of our agenda, we will culminate our week of interviews that we will complete on Friday. We will try to decide at that point in time a candidate that we want to offer a contract to. We will offer that contract on February the 9th, and then the new director will assume duties on April the 5th. Is there anything that you have not told us that you would like to tell us before we adjourn for the evening?
I just want you to know, I hope that you can see my heart. My heart's for kids, my heart's for educators. And I want to provide teachers and kids the leadership that they need to be successful. Whatever decision that you make, I'm committed to Murfreesboro City Schools. I love Murfreesboro City Schools. I fell in love with Murfreesboro when my basketball coach brought me to MTSU every summer. Love it. I'm committed to it. I've taught here. I've been a principal here. I've worked at central office. I think I have what it takes to take us to the next level and provide you with teachers with support, kids with the support, bus drivers with the support, custodians, cafeteria managers, nurses, the support they need. We've had a rough year. And I think that I have the compassion and the stability and the ability to motivate others to take us through this time. I appreciate the time tonight, and thank you so much.
Do any board member I failed to do this, have any other questions that you would like to ask Dr. Garrett?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, sir. I'm sorry, Tammy. I should have done that before I.
Since 2009, active shooter scenarios have tripled in elementary schools. Are you satisfied with how the Murfreesboro City Schools has approached preventing active shooter scenarios and protecting teachers, students, and other ELs, other people in the building? And if you are satisfied, what might you add or what might you change?
Murfreesboro Police Department is a tremendous organization. The work that Sergeant Newberg has done to develop plans to keep us safe, and the fact that we practice those is so important with them. They put their time in to come practice. He trains all of our teachers. One of the critical elements, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, one of the critical elements that we are missing is the support from organizations that have the state contract to help kids with mental illness. That's the part that is missing. We need to advocate. Linda Gilbert did a tremendous job. She put us in conversation with Trust Point and some of the people who can help us. That's what's lacking. For a child to get the mental health services that they need in this county or this area, it hurts. If you have a child that you want, many times if they're on the spectrum and you need to have them evaluated, sometimes it takes 1.5 years to get them into Vanderbilt. We have to work with the hospital, see if we can recruit child psychiatrists. We have to work with youth villages and Department of Children's Services. When we see children who are exhibiting signs of what we know, research, we've been looking at research, we know the signs. We have to be committed to making sure that we get them the help. The other thing is, and I'd have to, Elizabeth may throw something at me, but I would like to look at, I've always thought that as a district, we may need to look at some kind of a triage, I don't know if that's the correct word, program. When we have a kid that comes in, and we need to, that's the beauty of BEST, but you can't get them in BEST if they're not special ed. So what about the kids who are tearing the room apart and insulting the teacher, scaring the other children to death? And, you know, we've got to have a place to say, what can we do until we can get this kid wrapped in services? So that's one of the things I think, but that is a critical component that we're missing, is the help for mental illness.
Thank you so very much for that answer.
Okay, anybody else have another question, concern? Otherwise, Dr. Garrett, thank you very much for being with us this evening and today, and we will say good night and be done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, I forgot.